Hello there and welcome to Vermin Hunters TV with me, Si Pitway. Today on the show, me and Davy are going to show you the tutorial of the near and far calibration method, which me and Davy both use to calibrate our rifles. Now ideally, if you've got a Hawke scope, this is perfect. If you haven't got a Hawke scope, then you're going to have problems, and I wouldn't really advise doing it this way. So if you haven't got a Hawke scope, then the different way and the most preferred method, what a lot of people use, is to zero your rifle at your preferred zero range, and then once you've got it smack on, put a target out every 5 yards going back further and 5 yards coming forward closer towards you, and then take a shot at each one of the boards, and then record where the impact is in regards to your scope reticle, whichever scope reticle you use. Now if you have got a Hawke scope with a Hawke reticle, then you can use the Hawke Gun Pro software, which is a ballistic software. It's free to download from the Hawke website, and I'll put a link up later on in this tutorial, and it'll allow you then to calibrate your rifle using the software. Now for people who've used it or dabbled with it in the past, depending how much data you put in and how accurate your data is, depends on how accurate the data it actually gives you. Now if you use the standard data, it'll be pretty okay, but it won't be nowhere near as accurate as putting out a target and actually shooting the error out at each target. If you do it this way though, the way we're going to show you today, it will give you absolutely bang on data. So if it says 3 mildots is 45 meters, then 3 mildots will be 45 meters. And if that data is used in conjunction with the laser rangefinder, something like this Hawke 400 professional laser rangefinder, if you laser your target, be it paper, metal, or if you're a hunter, some sort of quarry, and it tells you it's 45 meters, you know that you can put 3 mildots on that target at 45 meters and your pellet will land on that mildot. Bearing in mind, you have to obviously do your bit as a shooter, and you've got to have the skill to be able to hit that target at that range. So why do we calibrate then? Well, a calibrate obviously gives you different points, as we've said, at different distances, and they're accurate points, so you're not guessing. If you've got a half mildot scope reticle, it's even better, because then you get a distance on your crosshair and every half mildot going down. What you can do then, with a little bit of maths in your mind, if you know that your crosshair is at a certain distance and your half mildot is at another distance, then between that is going to be a quarter mildot, and you can dissect it roughly. So what do you need? You need a chronograph, something like this F1, or the red one is the alpha chronny, and it's got to be a chronny what you can shoot through at the muzzle and then put it at a different distance and shoot over. So if you're using the little chrombros what fit on the end of your barrel, you can get the near data, but you won't be able to get the far data. So either one of these, like I said, or one of the new ones which have coming out, which I've seen with the actual infrared sensors, what can actually be used in pitch black, indoor or outdoor, really good. And I think, top of my head, I've seen some at Sandwell Field Sports, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, then please give Tony a call at Sandwell Field Sports. So without further ado then, well, I'm going to turn the camera off, get set up, and we'll start the actual demonstration and tutorial. Right, as I said at the start, the more accurate data you put into chair gun, the more accurate it'll give you out. So before I start shooting pellets over the chronograph and recording feet per second and muzzle velocities, I want to know what the average weight are of my pellets I'll be using. So to do that, I'm using a little set of digital scales, what you buy off eBay. You can get them for about £3 or £4. They're not the best scales in the world, but they serve the purpose. Nice little sliding cover to protect the screen. Turn on and it will say hello. Leave it turned on a bit on a flat surface for about 3 seconds, and then it will show you the digital numbers, and you can set it in at different ways of measuring, so you can be in like grains, grams, all different types of things. Now because I'm using my pellets and chair gun, I'm going to be using it in grains. So what I'll do now is I'll show you it working, and we're looking for basically to find out, just taking pellets out of the tin to find out what the average weight is. Right, I've turned the scales on, and I'm just going to take them straight out of the tin, the pellets, because we want to find out what the average weight is. So we've got 14.5 at the minute. On the tin it's saying there 14.66, which is really 14.7. 14.5. Let's do that one again. It's too eager. 14.4, near on 14.5. Oh, fell off. 14.5. So it looks like the average of this tin is 14.5. There is probably some a little bit higher at 14.7. 14.5 again, you see. So because we're trying to get the most accurate data, I'm going to write down now my average pellet weight of these H&N is 14.5 grain, and I'll use that later on in the data. Okay, so this is the near, and I'm just taking the pellet straight from the tin now we've established an average. Seven 4.3. 576.5. 574.4. So this is going to be probably in the low tens, which is where I like my springers anyway. 576.3. Good balance of recoil and accuracy at 12 foot-pound range power. 5.7, 5.1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 shots. So I'll pause the camera for now. Right, you've seen me just take the 5-shot string over the chronograph, and what you do now then is you add up all the feet per second and divide them by number of shots. So because I took 5 shots, I'm going to add up my 5 totals and then divide them by 5, and it'll give me an average. And I've done that, and the average is 575.32 feet per second. What you do then is, for your own peace of mind, so you know that your rifle is under the 12 foot-pounds of muzzle energy for the UK, you can do a sum, and it's your average feet per second times average feet per second times by the weight of the pellet in grain, which we know is 14.5, divided by 450,249, and that'll change it into foot-pounds of energy. So I've done that, and it's worked out at 10.65 foot-pounds with these pellets, which is absolutely smack on. It's in the higher part of the tens, and it'll give me a really good balance between recoil and how I can hold and shoot the rifle to accuracy, as I've already said. Now, also, the good thing about these pellets in this rifle, they're consistent at the muzzle. The total deviation over them 5 shots was just 2.2 feet per second, which is what's expected from a rifle tuned by Tony at Sandwell Field Sports. But please don't get confused with consistency. A lot of people think that if a rifle is consistent with a certain brand of pellets at the muzzle, it's going to be accurate at range. It doesn't always work like that. It's nice when you have got a consistent pellet like this one, and it's accurate at range like this gun is with these pellets. But sometimes what you will find is you could have a consistency of, say, 2.2, like my Imp's doing at the minute at the muzzle, but if you put a target out at 45 metres, you might have an 1.5-inch group, which is in my personal opinion is not a good group for 45 metres or yards, where you could have a pellet and put it through the chrono and have a 10 to 15 feet per second deviation, which is quite high, and a lot of people wouldn't like that. But put a target card out at 45 metres or yards, and the pellets will land under a 5p piece or thumbnail size. So please don't get confused with muzzle consistency and accuracy. What it does give you, though, it gives you a good indication of what power your rifle's doing. But what I suggest, if you want to know and find out what's best for your rifle and do some pellet testing, put a target out at 40-45 yards, different brands of pellet, shoot 3 to 5 shot groups, and see which ones group the tightest. When you find out which ones group the tightest and you're happy with that brand, then come back and shoot a 5-shot or 10-shot group through the chronograph, and then find out an average, and that'll give you the power of the rifle with that pellet, what you're going to be using. That's the best way to do it, rather than look for a consistent pellet and then expect it to be accurate. Right, what I've done now is moved the chrono and rested it on a table what's on its end, and it's at 44 metres. I've just guessed it, paced it out and then lased it on the table, and it's 44 metres, so that's the distance I'm going to use. Obviously here are the sensors for the chrono, and you don't want to hit the screen, so you need to aim quite a way above the actual sensors so that for this distance to make sure and ensure that the pellet don't hit the screen and smash it. So I know that 4 mildots with my imp is way over 44 metres, so I'm going to give it 4 mildots. If I get errors, it'll be because the pellet hasn't gone over both sensors. So if you see error 1, it means it's not gone over the first sensor but has on the second due to the wind. If you get error 2, it's gone over the first sensor but not the second sensor. So what I'll do is, when I edit this together to put into the clip what you're now watching, I'll edit out the errors. So I'm going to run up there now and then do 5 shots. There, I managed to get all 5 shots without any errors, so I'm pleased with that. Well, you saw me shoot the 5-shot string over the chrono at 44 metres, and luckily I didn't get any errors, which is quite surprising because there is a slight breeze. And what I did is I added up all 5 of the muzzle velocities, divided them by 5 as I did on the first near part, and then it gave me an average, and it worked out at an average of 458.18 feet per second. I then did the sum to convert it to foot-pounds, but I just did that just for my own knowledge, so I knew what power I've got at 44 metres, and that's velocity times pellet weight in grain, which is 14.5 grain, divided by 450,249, converted it to foot-pounds, and it worked out at 6.7 foot-pounds. So I know at 44 metres I've still got 6.7 foot-pounds of power, which is plenty. Now, I'm no expert, and I've read posts and people say you need around about 3.5 foot-pounds to kill a rabbit humanely with a headshot from an air rifle. So I know that at 44 yards, or 44 metres, which is probably about 46, 47 yards, I've got double what I need still. So hence why you can take longer range shots with an air rifle, and a sub 12 foot-pound air rifle be it, and kill rabbits humanely and vermin, as long as you obviously done the practice, it's calm weather, its conditions are right, you've done your calibration, you're using a rangefinder, and you're trying to cut down as many of the variables as possible so to be accurate, because you've got the power. So what I'll do now then is pack up a little bit, and then we'll have to go home, and then we'll go move to the software, and I'll show you the rest of the near-far calibration method. I'm just going to freehand the camera a second. As promised, I'll show you the sheet that I created on the computer. So you can see I've started filling it in, and it speaks for itself. So we've put in the near and the far data. It's worked out the average near and average far, and then foot-pounds. And then as you can see further down, there's different bits of information for your scope calibration, which will come in handy later on when we get onto the software itself. So one of the things you've got to do when you're using the software is put in the scope height. And when it's talking about scope height, it's talking about the centre of your scope here to the centre of your barrel here. Good thing about these Viracs, you'll see here at the top of the breech, if I was to open the actual breech now and cock the barrel, the actual pellet port is 1 centimetre to the centre from the top here. So what I normally do, I normally mark with a pencil where the pellet port starts, which is around about here, and draw a straight line just using a pencil, because pencil will come off and it don't affect your bluing, and then using a ruler I measure down to the pencil mark, and that gives me the distance in millimetres or centimetres. Right, filling in the site base information in chairgun, what it's asking for, it's asking basically from your centre of turret ear to the end of the muzzle, or in this case the silencer. So all you do, you measure that distance and put that in centimetres. Well, this is the website then for Hawke Optics, and it's where you download the free software Hawke Chairgun Pro, and you can see it here. And this is number 4, so it's the most up to date. And you can see just here where the mouse is. You can have it on your Android phone, iPhone, Windows, or if you've got a Mac, on your Mac. And like I said, it's free to download, and this is what we'll be using for the rest of the tutorial. So once you've downloaded the free software and then installed it on your computer, it'll put a shortcut on your desktop like it has here. So I'll double click on my desktop, and I've used it a while, and when it opens up in this screen here. You'll see there's tabs along the top, 2 rows of tabs, and then you've got a graph at the bottom. At the minute you can see it's in meters, metric, but if you wanted to change it into yards, you can click units and then change it to imperial, and it will click to yards. We'll leave it in yards for the time being. So the first thing it says here is weight, and weight is in relation to your pellet weight. So because H and N are 14.66 grain according to the tin, if we was to put that in, we would be slightly inaccurate, because we know we've weighed them and they're 14.5. So I've changed them to 14.5 grain. Where it says here, this is ballistic coefficient, this is what we're trying to achieve with the near and far, so we're going to leave that for the time being. Muzzle velocity, this is obviously your near data, and my near data now is 575.32, so you can see it's hardly changed at all. So 575.32. What you will notice, when I press enter, it rounds it up or down, and it's rounded it to 575 now, so it's only changed by 2 meters per second since the last time I actually did this calibration, which is good. It shows that the rifle is staying consistent and everything's working correctly with it. Yards is obviously your zero range, and we know that 25 meters is 27.3 yards. And what you can do, if you can hover your mouse over, and it'll give you things if they're in yards in metric, and vice versa. Scope height, now this here you can see is in inches, but we measured it in centimeters, so for this case I am going to put it to metric. So I'm going to click metric, and it'll give me the option. You can see I've already got 4.5 centimeters in, and if I click over, now it's turned it to inches. Sight base, as we said, it's from the middle of the scope turret to the end of the barrel or silencer, and my sight base is 67 centimeters, so I'll put in 67, and that's now in there. Scope mag is the main magnification you use, and times 10 is what I use. Laser height, we're not using a laser, so we don't need laser height or laser zero. Incline is, are we shooting straight or are we shooting up or down? It will give you data, this software, if you want to know where you'd aim if you shoot up or down. Start range, and this is the start range of the data you want it to produce, and the end range of the data. So because we went out to 44 meters, it makes it easier if I just put 44 meters in there for when we do the actual ballistic coefficient data, and you'll see that in a minute. Killzone, this is the killzone size you want to work to, so the killzone on chairgun is between these 2 purple lines here. So what that's saying is between these 2 purple lines is 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch. Energy, because we've got it set to meters, it comes out automatically in joules, but if you put your mouse over it like that, you can see it's automatically shows you in foot pounds, which is at 10.61 foot pounds. Clicks here, this is already set up for Hawke reticles, so you don't touch it. I've never touched that. And wind speed and wind angle, this is if you want to work out how many mildots you would have to aim off in certain winds at certain speeds and at certain angles. I've got that set to no wind, so I always work out my data on no wind. Obviously if I was to put a wind speed in there, it'll give me an angle going straight across me at 90 degrees, so it would give me the worst case scenario, which we obviously we don't want that. We just want to find out what our aim points are for up and down. So what we need to do now then is go back to this one, which is the ballistic coefficient, and this is what we're trying to work out. So if I right click on that now and use the option velocity change, click on velocity change, and it's automatically put in my near data, which is 175 meters per second, or 575.32 meters per second. It's then wanting to know at what range did we put the chronograph. Well, because I put it in here, it's automatically put it in here for us. And then it's saying what is your second velocity. So this is your far data. Now my far data, my average was 458.18 feet per second, and I know if I translate that to meters per second, that's 140, because I've already done that off camera. So I put in 140 there, and then you'll see this here is the ballistic coefficient of what I was using before. So I press calculate, and it's changed now the number. Once I'm happy with that, I'll press OK, and what it's done now, it is slightly changed this graph here, or this graph. So what I can do now, I can bring up my aim points. So I click toolbox, scope cap view, and you'll see it brings up the scope cap now, and on the scope cap it's got me all my points of aim now. So I can, I'm zeroed at 25 meters because we're in metric, and my first 0 point, or my primary zero is at 25, and my secondary zero here is at 10 meters. So I know I could aim either on the crosshair here at 10 meters or on the crosshair there at 25 meters, and I'll hit bang on where the pellet is. You'll see now I've got the reticles set up for half mildot. On the top here you've got the reticles button, and you can see there's all these different Hawke reticles. If I was to pick a generic milldot, it'll give me the data for the generic milldot. If you've got an SR6, it'll do the same, but because I am using a generic milldot, but I like to see the data in between. So just to show you, I've got 0 at 25 and 1 milldot is 32. So if I go to half milldot, it's still 25 and 32, but it also now gives me the data for half a milldot. So I like to use the half milldot reticle for all my workings out, because it does give me that extra aim point. And then, like I said earlier on, I can dissect between 25 and 29 to do a quarter milldot. And that's as simple as it is. If you wanted to drill into it even more and take it more accurate, what you can do is pick a kill zone, and a kill zone means from where that pellet enters to where it exits, the size that you want the trajectory to be within. So let's say you want to use it for HFT, and the minimum target is a 15 millimeters, which is 1.5 centimeters. You can see now that my pellet leaves that diameter of kill zone here and comes back in here. Now if I wanted now to adjust my zero to be in there, if I right clicked on there, optimize my zero, it's now told me that if I zero my imp at 23 meters using the data I've got, I'll never be further out than 15 millimeter, and that means I could shoot basically on the crosshair from, if I just move this across, from here, from 8 meters all the way out to there, which is 25.5 meters. That's ideal if you're not really interested in using old over and old under much, and you're going to be shooting rats. So you can basically shoot rats from 8 meters to 25.5 meters just using the crosshair, using this setup and this data what we've just worked out using the near and far. Now I prefer 25 meter zero, like so. So I'm going to put it back to 25 meters, and I'm going to up my kill zone. I'll try 2 centimeters first. 2 centimeters is just out, so probably 2.1 or 2.2 centimeters. If you want to find out yourself, what you can do is you can go to Killzone and fit Killzone to range, like so. So it saves you having to guess like I was just doing. So what's saying to me now is from this distance here, which is I think 6 meters, all the way out to 28 meters, I'm only going to be 2.15 centimeters totally out. You half that, because obviously that's from that distance to that distance, then I'm only going to be just over a centimeter out. So it's still really good for me. but what I do is I use these aim points. Now while we're following through, if you want to find out a little bit more, so you can go into toolbox and come down to range card. It'll produce you a range card as well, and you can see you can have it in minutes of angle or mils or mil dots. You can set your steps, so you can have it in 1 meter steps and minimum ranges. So we'll start at 5 and we're saying we're going out to 60, and it'll tell you your mil dots or where you have to aim now with your new data. So for people who are doing HFT and shoot out to 45 meters, 45 yards, which is 41 meters, you can put in 41, and I think about 8 yards is around about 7 meters. So minimum range we'll put in 7 meters. So I know if I'm shooting on ×10 magnification with my imp now, and I need to shoot a target at 8 yards, I'd give it 1.3 mil dots of holdover, and if I'm shooting at 45 yards or 41 meters, I need to give it 2.5 mil dots of holdover, and I'd hit the target. And that's how good it is. What you can do then is, using the sheet I shown you earlier at the bottom, you can write down in 5 meter intervals or 5 yard intervals. So I know if I started at 10 now, 10's my zero, first secondary zero as I'm pointing here, and I wanted to 15, just over half a mil dot it is, which is obviously, so you've got to aim low. At 20 it is half a mil dot, so at 20 meters here this is half a mil dot. So now we know that this distance here is around about half a mil dot low. At 25 I'm back on 0, which is here. At 30 meters I'm just over half a mil dot low, which is here. And at 35 I'm nearly 1.5 mil dots low, which is here. And you can write that down on your data sheet if that's how you like it, or on your shooting map if you're doing HFT and you've got all your aim points. Some people like to see visualizations more, so I'm going to go back to the toolbox and bring up the scope cap view, which is here, and then I'm going to go back into toolbox and click in visualization view, and what you can see, it brings up a second box. If I right click on there now, you can pick different targets, either hunting targets or HFT targets. We're just going to leave it on the one it's on, which is the HFT squirrel. Now at the minute I've got set up here 38 meters. 38 meters on my scope cap view is 2 mil dots, and you can see 1 mil dot, 2 mil dots. It's showing 2 mil dots. If I wanted to know what 3 mil dots was, or visualize it, I would go 1, 2, 3, and it's 44 meters. So at 44 meters I would have to aim 3 mil dots, and you can see there that's at 3 mil dots. People want to know how I sometimes get that onto my scope cap. Well, it's easy. You can see at the bottom it's got a diameter here. You can either inches or millimeters, and this is the diameter of the actual scope cap view you want. So you measure your scope cap. In my case it's 52 millimeters. Then you right click and you can either print it if you've got a printer, or save it as a picture. So it's entirely up to you. So I'll just close these. You'll notice at the bottom here there's this purple line, and it's got PBR written against it, which is point blank range. And earlier on when I was measuring down like this with my mouse, what you can do is, if you're not looking in between distances, you can look at this, and it's saying from 6.8 meters to 28 meters I'll never be further out than 2.15 centimeters in diameter, which is between these two lines. The middle line, this red line, is your scope's line of sight. So whenever you're looking for your scope, that's your crosshair there. So in layman's terms then, we know at 25 meters the red line is crossing the trajectory of the pellet, which is here. But if I was shooting at 30 meters, my scope and my actual trajectory is different, and that's what the data is working out for you. It's giving you an exact aim points in mil dots. The smaller the kill zone, obviously the easier it is for people to shoot and without using any holdover at all. But if you do this method, then it doesn't really matter. You can pick a preferred zero distance, like I have done, of 25 meters, and not the 23 what it's telling me is the optimum range, and you can use the actual mil dots itself. Bearing in mind that 2.15 centimeters is from this line here to this line here, so it's still very good, and as long as you're using a laser, you can be very, very accurate, and you can hit small targets using this system. So I've been doing a bit of a zeroing off camera with the imp, and there has been a little bit of breeze which has affected the impact going, making it go left, but hopefully I can catch a nice group now at 27.3 yards with you using one of the red dots. Basically same old bit of paper tear. Might need a click up actually now the wind stopped. That's better. Taking my time more now. It looks to be going in the same little hole, but I won't know until I properly edit it. Yeah, I don't know how many that was, 5 or 6, but tiny group really. So happy with that, especially for this slight breeze.